Welcome to CSBJ Radio. CSBJ Radio is the premier online business talk radio show in the Southeast. CSBJ proactively connects, informs, and engages its listeners in all aspects of small business. Discover the entrepreneur in you with CSBJ Radio. Now, here's your host, Greg Wilson.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another edition of CSBJ Radio. I am your host, Greg Wilson, the owner, publisher of Connections Small Business Journal. You can find us online, as we often say, at www.connectionssbj.com. Again, that is www.connectionssbj.com. Follow us, utilizing even social media. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/connectionssbj. I'm excited. Our likes are going up. The amount of reach that we have going on right now is just really out the roof, and I'm very excited about it. Proud of it as well. Proud of the connections that are being made, and as we often say, be connected, with people, resources, and information with CSBJ. Again, follow us online. Our website address specifically is www.connectionssbj.com. If you're interested in any advertising opportunities, about halfway through this podcast today, you have an opportunity to find out who this show is sponsored by. It's sponsored by Supreme Fast Tax. You'll hear their commercial playing probably about the midway point through this podcast. Go by and see them today. Good friends of mine. I'm glad that they are sponsors of today's show. They've been probably the most consistent sponsors that we've had. Give them a call, 706-507-1040. If you are interested in having your business featured on this show, and not just featured on this show, but also a sponsor of the show, give us a call at 706-289-7863. We literally have, a wide range of advertising opportunities, from our website to this podcast, our TV show, and also in the CSBJ magazine. So definitely 4 or 5 reasons and ways for you to get your message out to your clients about your business. So give us a call today, 706-289-7863. If you are outside of the Columbus, Georgia area and you're interested in giving us a call in Birmingham or Talladega, the Coosa Valley area, give us a call at 256-474-5216. The title of today's podcast is Learning from Big Box Failures. Learning from Big Box Failures. And if you've listened to the news, if you've watched the news recently, you've noticed the failure of, quite honestly, a business that has been around as far back as I can remember, and that is Radio Shack. All right. So as a small business owner, we should always be open to learning. And we're going to not only post this podcast, but post an article today as well. But we have to realize that, we need to always be open to learning. And some of the greatest lessons to be learned, quite honestly, can come at the expense of others. We don't necessarily have to be, our own school lesson, if you will. You could watch what is going on in the market. You can watch what other companies are doing, what other businesses are doing. You can actually sit back and watch what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and you can learn from that. You don't necessarily have to always learn on your dime, if you will. All right, so if you are a small business owner, this is a great opportunity for you to learn, from the failure. And yes, it is a failure, a small business failure of Radio Shack. They've recently filed, bankruptcy. We see, literally every city that you're in, there may be 2 or 3 retail locations for Radio Shack. We can actually see and witness, firsthand, get a front row seat to the demise of Radio Shack. And at one time, Radio Shack was a very popular retail store chain. Again, I can remember growing up, in Birmingham, Alabama, and visiting this retail store chain. I can remember going in and, looking at the different products that they offered. And, as you pay attention to it, you actually realize that, hey, this Radio Shack chain actually was doomed for quite some time. All right, so today we want to just take a look at it and see what you and I as business owners can do, to avoid, a similar fate. What worked for Radio Shack, what didn't work for Radio Shack. So let's take a look at some of those today. The first thing that we want to talk about and what we can learn from this particular big box failure, we need to offer style as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, a startup. All right, I don't care the type of business that you're in. We can offer style and substance. Substance. Radio Shack attempted to change their brand, many times, but they failed miserably at changing the actual core of their business. So again, we're starting out with offering style and substance. All right, so they tried to change, their brand of the business. They spent loads of money on advertising. I can remember even the verbal branding. There was even a commercial that came out doing a Super Bowl where Radio Shack they did a spoof on themselves in this commercial, but they admitted during the commercial that they were doing a substandard job of providing customer service. So when we talk about, changing the core of our business, offering style and substance, we actually want to do just that, not just paint a flowery picture of your business, but the core aspect of your business needs to be really, you need to take a look at the core aspect of your business. So loads of money were spent on advertising and verbal branding, but again, the actual core of the business, remained the same. If you were to walk into a Radio Shack location, you may have an employee, at the retail counter, which in a lot of Radio Shack stores, the retail counter was centrally located in the middle of the store. All right, so not only was the individual that's standing there able to greet you as you walked in, which they didn't do, but they could actually see you throughout the entire store. You could be over, looking at phones or other accessories, that you might need. And guess what? The individual failed in many cases to come from behind the counter. All right, that is a core aspect of your business that needs to be changed. So stores remain improperly staffed. Customer service was in my mind, if I were to judge, it was horrible. Employees even possess what I would label even as a lackadaisical attitude, as if they have known for quite a long time that the stores were even doomed. They struck deals, and here again they were trying to offer style. So Radio Shack went out and they struck deals with Apple. They began to sell the Beats by Dre. They struck deals with T-Mobile. They struck deals with Sprint. And on the note of Sprint, if you've heard in the news, the majority of their stores, they're closing, yes, but the stores that are remaining open will become, guess what, Sprint retail store locations. All right, so they struck deals with all these major companies trying to increase their brand, trying to increase foot traffic in the store, but they were leaning too heavily on the name of Apple. They were leaning too heavily on the name of Beats by Dre. They were leaning too heavily on the T-Mobile and the Sprints and the Verizons. They had, they sold all these phones in their store. All right, but again, those alliances failed. Why? Because the core aspect of the business failed to change. All right, so what can we as a small business owner learn? I don't care about your marketing plan. I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't care about your marketing plan. I don't care about the words that you say out of your mouth, the promises that can be made even. All right, but if the core aspect of your business doesn't change, if you are not providing substance with your product, all you're just saying are words. All right, and you must change that. You must offer substance. Everyone can toot their own horn, right? All right, so what we can do, even as small business owners, we should offer not only style, but also offer substance. All right, so the next thing that we want to talk about, what a small business owner can learn from the failure of this big box, and that is to have a specific service. A lot of companies are out now. Before I jump on Radio Shack or jump back on Radio Shack, a lot of companies are out now, and they're big box locations, specifically like Big Lots. If you were to walk into a Big Lots location, they have their hand in everything. Walmart has their hand in everything. For a small business owner, maybe right now we shouldn't have our hands in everything. Maybe we should have and offer a specific service. We need to perfect the selling of that specific service. We need to perfect, offering that with style, offering that specific service with substance. But if you remember going into Radio Shack locations, you really didn't know what they were truly about. We understand the name Radio Shack, and if you were walking to their retail location, the very first thing you see, would be just a wide assortment of mobile phone devices. They've always had that. They would always sell radio controlled cars. They would always sell a very limited, and I do mean limited, number of televisions. You may find, laptops in there, but Radio Shack was, it was for the geeky folks, the techies, my kind of people, right? But even with that, you still found that, the stores would just they were convoluted. You couldn't really understand what their model was. All right, so that, believe it or not, if a consumer realizes that, that consumer is less likely to spend money. If they walk through a store and they're confused about what it is that they are in there for, they're confused about maybe where things are. I know they sold resistors and capacitors and soldering guns, hot guns, all these different things in their store. Offer a specific service. Always offer a specific service. All right. So if you have an unfocused inventory, well, guess what that equates to? From the consumer, it equates to an unfocused brand. All right. So as a small business owner, let's focus our brand. Let's focus what we're offering to our customers as well. So that is a takeaway from Radio Shack. That is a takeaway that you and I can learn from this big box failure, and that is to offer a specific service, perfect that specific service, down to a science. All right. Then you can begin to duplicate that service. You then can begin to add other services to your service menu. And I mentioned Walmart. All right. Well, Walmart has the number of stores that they have, and believe it or not, folks, they haven't perfected their core structure. All right, their customer service is horrible. All right, but what they have perfected striking deals, large quantity deals with providers of product. They're able to put these into their retail locations, and we flock to it. We deal with the customer service issues, but we flock to these stores. But keep in mind, again, Radio Shack was previously the same way. And if we are failing to offer a focused inventory, a focus or a specific service, our brand as a whole begins to be labeled as unfocused. I also mentioned the store Best Buy. Now, Best Buy, quite honestly, for the past few years, I believe they have gotten better with their store layout. When they first opened, it just looked like, an explosion had taken place on the inside. All right, but I believe they've gotten a little bit better. They have their furniture department now. They have an electronics department now, and of course they're continues to sell the food and the other items that you might need for your household. So they are beginning to become a little bit more focused with their inventory and thus their brand. At this time, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back after these few messages.
Does the thought of filing your taxes have you stressed? Supreme Fast Tax will take the headache out of doing your taxes. Your taxes will be filed error-free the first time and will include Protection Plus from IRS audits. Supreme Fast Tax prepares federal forms and state taxes for all 50 states. Visit us year-round for individual, joint, or small business taxes. Supreme Fast Tax offers convenient pickup and notary services. Get your free estimate today. Call Supreme Fast Tax, 706-507-1040.
Thank you for tuning in again to the CSBJ Radio Show. I am, again, your host, Greg Wilson. We appreciate you tuning in today. And today we're actually talking about what you and I, as small business owners, can learn from the failure of a big box. And recently, we've seen in the news the demise of Radio Shack. We've seen other companies go out of business. We have, if we pay attention to what they're doing, we can actually learn from it on their dime. It doesn't cost us a dime to learn, based on off of their failures. All right. So recently, Radio Shack has filed for bankruptcy. They're literally shutting down all of their stores. If you were to drive by a store today, if it is still open, their inventory levels, are very low. Why? Because they have 70% off sales going on right now, 50% off sales, or even more. I've seen them as high as